This conference will now be recorded.
Hello guys, good morning everyone.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, Mahesh.
Good morning
Morning,
guys.
Mahesh.
Good morning all.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. My voice, audio is audible, right? Okay, thank you.
Very low Akash.
Okay.
Use earphones actually.
Yeah. Last time it was not audible. At least it's okay. Fine. Thank you.
Guys, today we are starting with our AWS, which is AWS Solutions Architect Associate. So this is our training which we are starting with today. Guys, what is this AWS actually? Do you have any understanding about this AWS? What is it used for? What are we going to do with this AWS? What are we going to achieve learning AWS?
This is a cloud hosting platform, basically
Okay,
providing IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS.
perfect. Cloud service platform. So there are many cloud service platforms, like it could be AWS, or it could be Azure, or it could be GCP, or it could be some other cloud. But these are the most commonly used cloud service providers. So it is one among them. Okay. So what is this cloud service, or what is this cloud computing? Guys, anybody?
So, cloud service means that we have the data center available across the globe, different locations, and wherever this location would be available, customers and the consumers can choose their servers and the hosting platform to be nearly available, and they will be no related to capital expenditure. It would be all OPEX.
Okay, okay. It is an on-demand delivery of IT resources, which you mean to an on-demand delivery of IT resources, such as not just only servers. It could be servers, it could be applications, it could be networks, it could be many things, storage. So we can request any of these components from any one of this cloud service provider. But how exactly we are going to access these resources? Via internet, right? We are going to access to these resources via internet. Are we owning these physical resources? Absolutely no. We are not owning these resources. But are they providing it for free? No. Then they are charging for what we use, which is called as pay as you go pricing. Pay as you go model means how much resources you consume, how much resources you are utilizing. You have to pay only for what you have used it. That's called as pay as you go model. So anybody would like to get into this cloud operations, mandatory they need to understand three important key terms, which is called as on demand, and the second one is scalable or scalability, And next one is pay as you go model. So these are the three important things one need to have a proper understanding in order to understand about cloud services or to get into a cloud. As I told you, AWS is one of the cloud service platform which is allowing us to provision the infrastructure like servers, applications, networks and storage. And this infrastructure which is on AWS Cloud platform, we are able to access it from a place through internet, and we are going to pay to AWS as per our utilization. This is all about a cloud computing in a very simple terms if you ask me a proper definition about cloud computing. But I would like to tell you about what is this cloud computing. What is this cloud infrastructure? What is a physical infrastructure? What really mean a cloud infrastructure? And why cloud infrastructure, not a physical infrastructure? I'll try to tell you in a different way where any layman would be able to understand what is this infrastructure and what is this pay as you go model, what is this scalability, what is this on demand. You'll get a very beautiful understanding in the very first class. Okay. So imagine that from my childhood, I born and brought up in an environment where I see business people. So from my childhood, my passion is to start a business, and I wanted to be a entrepreneur. I wanted to do a startup. This is what the seed which is planted from my childhood. So I was prepared accordingly and I would like to do that. So since I've done my software engineering, so I don't like to do a vegetables business. I don't like to do a meat business. I would like to get into an IT business. So my dream is to start an IT company. To start an IT company, you required a lot amount of funds. You require lot amount of ideas, business ideas, and you require lot amount of skills. You require lot amount of time. Very importantly, having funds is a very crucial thing, and ideas are also very crucial. But since it is my childhood dream, and since I was, you know, working from couple of years to achieve this path, so I was prepared with best ideas, and accordingly, since I had some good ideas, I have a lot of investors for my company. But again, you need to understand a lot of funds means how much funds are required to start this company. In order to start a company, you need to invest a lot of money on the infrastructure. Let's say servers, many things. Imagine that we need about, you know, 1,000 servers, which will cost about 1 lakh Indian rupees. So here only you need a debt investment of 1 crore. And just buying a hardware is not sufficient. You need to consider about operating system licensing also. And you also need to consider about applications and licensing. And also you need to consider about network infrastructure. You need to buy routers, you need to buy switches, you need to buy, hubs. Many things need to be considered. And in addition to that, you need to consider about annual maintenance. It could be rents, it could be power consumption, it could be power backup, or it could be air conditioning and many other maintenance stuff. Like You need to have an annual maintenance contract to all the physical hardware. You need to renew it every year. And also you need to consider about human resources. Why? Because you require server admins, required database admins, required network admins, required developers, required testers to implement your idea, right? So you required a lot of fund. Why? Because if you have an idea, to implement an idea, it takes at least 1 or 2 or 3 years to bring it to the market. So till then, at least you required 50 crores to 100 crores to run your organization. But I have funds because of my investors. But just funds and ideas are not just sufficient. You need to spend a lot amount of time also. I'll just give an example. Imagine that I would like to provision one server. I would like to procure one server, and I would like to provision one server and build one server and deploy one application and bring it to live in my environment. So what are the series of steps involved in an IT organization in order to procure one server? First thing is ops team raise a request to procurement team. And once we raise a request to procurement team requests quotes from multiple dealers. And what next step? Procurement team finalize one of the best dealer with best quote. Next, what will happen? Next, vendor management team comes into picture. Vendor management team adds the dealer into their vendor management system. First, there'll be a authorized vendor for our company to provide a service. For that, there'll be a process. And once he has been successfully added as a vendor, then like procurement team going to send purchase order to the dealer. Then against to the purchase order, you know, dealer has to deliver the server. And once they get a purchase order, dealer might take minimum 2 to 3 days to deliver the product. So these are the I'm not going further from here. Again, once we have to open the box and we have to install the operating system, we have to harden it. That I'm not telling. Just in order to procure one physical server, there are so many processes which are involved in the organization. Just try to understand this is a high critical requirement, high priority requirement. So to raise a request to operations team required 1 day. The procurement team required at least one minimum day to request for the quotes, and every vendor will not send a quote immediately. They'll be very busy. They'll take at least 24 hours. So at least they need one more day to finalize the best quote, and vendor management team required at least minimum 1 day to add them to the vendor list, and to raise a PO it takes minimum 1 day. Generally, purchase orders will take only the physical hard copies. At least 1 day is required to deliver to the vendor. It is speed post also. And here it is taking 3 days. But again, all vendors will not work 365 days here. They might work only Monday to Saturday. Sunday will be holiday. In between might be one more day will be extended. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 plus 3, 9 days. Means approximately it is taking 10 days. Even it is a high pilot project also in a organizations, the actual process is going to take 10 days in order to procure one server. Here it is not about money. Okay, even though you have a money readily available, it's not just like you go and purchase a mobile, but this is for an organization. For an organization, there will be a lot of process are involved. So we have money, but still it is taking 10 physical days in order to procure one physical server. Imagine that I have started this company. Okay, we have started this company and we have sufficient reserves available, funds are available. So, but we are badly looking for a customer. We are badly looking for a client for first project. So, when we are hunting for a project for a customer, imagine that we have found one customer. Okay. So the customer has reviewed our company, reviewed our technical team, and he knows that ours is a startup company. So he has a lot of questions addressed already by our team, okay, technical team. So he is quite happy with everything and the pricing what we have offered. So he is ready to sign the contract with our company. But he is telling only one thing. I need a server with 128 core CPU. Just taking an example, it could be anything else. And I required a server with 256 GB of RAM. I required a server with 1 TB of hard disk. How many servers you are having with this configuration in your company? And if you can show me at least 50 servers with this configuration, I can trust your company. I can rely on you guys because I've invested so much. So at least your presence will be there. So I'll definitely sign a contract. If you want, you take 1 week of time, but in 1 week, I should see your infrastructure of this hardware configuration of these numbers. Just to procure a basic server, it is taking 10 days, and that too with this high-end configuration, procuring in just 1 week is highly impossible. Why? Because none of the distributors and none of the dealers will keep this high-end configuration servers in stock. Why? Because they only raise a request to the manufacturer when there is a bulk order. So why? Because a huge investment, because of the high competition, the dealer is not making much profit. When the dealer is not making much profit, investing crores of money and taking the order is of no use. So whenever he gets an order, he'll take around 15-20 days. Not only this dealer, any dealer in the world works the same way. So he'll take 15 days or 20 days of time and he'll deliver. So when I contacted all the dealers, they said, I don't have in stock, I don't have in stock. It takes at least 20 days. So in that case, definitely I have to lose this customer. I have money, but the problem is we cannot provision this 50 servers of this hardware configuration in a week of time. So this issue can be addressed if you are provisioning your infrastructure on a cloud environment. You can go to any cloud, whether it could be AWS Cloud or whether it could be a GCP Cloud or whether it could be Azure Cloud. What all you have to do is you have to define, okay, instance. I'll tell you what are these instance types and all. So here I need to specify I need to have 120 GB of RAM plus 256 GB of hard disk, and I need to specify 250 sorry 1 TB of hard drive. That's it. So once I select, I can create this instance in just less than a minute. I can provision a server with the same hardware configuration by using the cloud infrastructure in just less than a minute. How much time it is taking to provision one server? In the same time, I can able to provision 50 servers or 100 servers also. So while creation itself, I am going to specify into how many servers? 50. So in the same time, in less than 1 minute or 2 minutes, I will be able to provision the same hardware configuration of servers of 50 numbers. So if I am provisioning my infrastructure on a cloud environment, on demand delivery of resources, I need at an instance at a moment 50 servers of this hardware configuration. This is what my dynamic requirement is, which is highly impossible if it is your physical infrastructure. This is only possible if your infrastructure is provisioned in a cloud environment. On demand, you can request any of your cloud service provider to have this hardware configuration with this number of servers, and you can just procure in just less than minutes. If really you have your infrastructure on cloud, then it is nothing for you. You may no need to break your head, and you no need to lose your project. So this is nothing but on demand provision of resources. So one of the key term which I'm trying to tell you to understand is, where is this? On demand. Anytime you want any resources, you can able to request and you can get it in just minutes of time. And that is only possible if it is your infrastructures on cloud. So I was talking about cloud infrastructure, physical infrastructure, physical infrastructure. So what is this cloud infrastructure? What does it mean? To make you understand, you all are aware about Google Drive. So it's one of the cloud storage service provided by Google. So anybody who creates a Google account, any Google account, let's say Gmail, by default you are getting a free Google Drive access to your account. So if there are any important documentations or files, resume, some photo, you can able to store inside this cloud storage. That is the purpose of this Google Drive. Now, where is this Google Drive stored? Somewhere on the internet. Somewhere on the internet. Where is it means I don't know. Somewhere AWS is maintaining this physical hard disk. So they are going to allocate some free space, right? And in that space only we are going to store our private files, right? Where to store that files you require disk space. Means somewhere in the world physically Google is maintaining that physical hard disks. Where we don't know. We just need an access whenever on demand for us. Whenever we want, we need to upload files to the Google Drive. But where is it, in which location it is, we really don't know. Okay. So now, by default, you know that whenever you create a Gmail, you get a Google Drive access with 15 GB. This is a free limit. That means within 15 GB, how many number of files you wanted to store, or let's say how much data you wanted to store, it's up to you. As long as you are not consuming more than 15 GB, you are under a free tier limit. Means that is free. Google will not charge you. If you consume more than 15 GB, that means you are exceeding the free tier limit. So after 15 GB, if you have consumed 100 GB, I'm just telling you, let's say it is 2000 Indian rupees. After 100 GB, you have consumed till 500 GB. The pricing is 3500 INR. If you have consumed up to 1 terabyte, then it is going to be 5k INR. But if you are not exceeded the free tier limit, you are not build. But once you exceed the free tier limit, Google is charging you. But how they are charging? Based on your consumption. The more you utilize the Google Drive, the more bill you get it every month or an year. It's based on your contract. If you consume less, you'll get a less bill. This type of billing is called as pay as you go. Now, this AWS is providing only this storage as a service, Google Drive as a service. Likewise, AWS is providing many services, okay, like related to servers, related to applications, related to networks, related to storage. So, however, to access this Google Drive, somewhere Google is maintaining their physical infrastructure, means physical hard disk somewhere in the world. Same way, when AWS is providing so many cloud services, of course, AWS is also somewhere on the internet is maintaining these physical servers, networks, storage, right? But we are trying to access to the AWS infrastructure, which is physically provisioned from somewhere, from our house or from our office system. How we are going to able to do that? That we are able to access through a web console, and that we are going to access via internet. If we are trying to access to any one of the resources not owned by us, if any resources we are accessing remotely over the internet which are not owned by us, and we are paying them as per the utilization, that resources are called as cloud resources, and that infrastructure is called as cloud infrastructure. If the same infrastructure you are not accessing remotely, is not owned by someone, and it is there in your on-prem environment, owned by you, and that infrastructure is called as physical infrastructure. So this is the difference between your cloud infrastructure and as well as your physical infrastructure. The infrastructure which is not owned by you, but still you have an access to utilize the resources, and you are accessing it through internet, and you are paying it using pay as you go model, where that infrastructure is called as cloud infrastructure. So till now we have understood about on demand, allocation of resources, and one is pay as you go. And now let's try to understand about scalable. So when we talk about scalable, we have something called as scale up and we have something called as scale down. But there are different terminologies are also available. Okay, what is meant by horizontal scaling, what is meant by vertical scaling. So I'll really talk about those things when it is really relevant for us. Now at the moment I'm just only talking about scalable. Imagine that there is something called as Amazon.in, Amazon.com or Amazon.in. So you know that Amazon is one of the world's popular, e-commerce website, right? So this company is the one which is a pioneer in most of all the countries, including India, in order to sell products online. People rely on Amazon. People, if any product booked in Amazon, 99.9% it is going to be on time delivery. That much trust they have created for their customers globally. That's why Amazon is one of the successful e-commerce organization. Because of their success, they get into a cloud services also and some other software services as well. It's one of the most trusted e-commerce organization. Okay, so this company is going to run their web application. See, when we go to our website, if you go here, I'm going to type amazon.in. I can able to access to this web page. It could be from app or it could be from browser, whichever is it. The request is going to this amazon.in. Okay, if you are from US, it go to amazon.com, let's say. So the request is going to where? To the Amazon web servers. So Amazon is going to maintain web servers. They maintain hundreds of web servers, guys, not two, three, four, five. They maintain hundreds of web servers because the kind of traffic they get is in lakhs at an instance, right? So in this scenario, I cannot draw 100 servers, right? In this scenario, I have four servers. Or let me take three servers only. So this is a web server 1, web server 2. So on a normal working day, the number of people visiting Amazon.in is very minimal, but that also it will be in lakhs only. But when we compare the usage of this Amazon, application or Amazon web application from browser on a public holidays is multiplied by 10 times. But on a regular working day, it is minimal. So any request coming on a normal working day are balanced by three web servers, but in the backend hundreds of servers will be there, but I'm just telling. But definitely we have, you know, some public holiday we have. Okay, so let's say what is the public holiday? Countrywide public holiday is August 15th. So we have August 14th, let's say. We have August 16th we have. So these are the 3 dates if you see. August 14th is a working day. August 16th is a working day. So on August 14th, there'll be a minimal traffic. On August 15th, there'll be very high traffic. How much high traffic you may have, you cannot predict it. Though you have the data of the previous years, but you cannot just blindly depend based on those data. So you can expect enormous multiplied amounts of users hitting your website also, and again it becomes normal. So we had only three servers on a normal working day, so which are successfully balancing the incoming and outgoing traffic coming to the Amazon.in. And Amazon has done a great campaigns, okay, for August 15th. Let's say some Republic Day offers. They've done extensive marketing. So this sale starts on August 15th early morning 12 o'clock, ends at August 15th night 11 o'clock 59 minutes. So this 24 hours is a very crucial day for Amazon. And the way they have done the marketing, and they really know that there will be a very huge traffic they are expecting. So what Amazon have done is, usually we have three servers, and what Amazon thought is, okay, we have done extensive marketing, right? So there'll be, even Amazon is also aware about this. So Amazon is also preparing in the back end. So on that particular day, let us have double the number of servers. You have 100, you make it 200. But in this case, we have three, we have provisioned four servers. But the we expected that there'll be double the traffic. That's why I've increased the infrastructure to double. But on that day, there is a huge 10 times of traffic, 30 times of traffic we are experiencing. When there are more incoming and outgoing requests, definitely there is more utilization of the resources. When there are more incoming traffic and more outgoing requests coming to our web servers, definitely there will be more high utilization of CPU and memory. When there is high utilization of CPU and memory, if this servers can able to sustain that traffic, it's fine. But what we expected is double the traffic. If you get, let's say, 1 lakh requests in a minute, we are getting about 10 lakh requests in a minute. We have prepared for only 2 lakh requests. But now, what you have to do, if you don't do anything, due to high utilization of CPU and memory, there are chances your web application can be crashed. Your operating system get abnormal rebooted. If that happens, such a big prestigious company like Amazon giving great deals and saying that their 24 hours is the timeline and saying like your services are not available, then people next time will not trust Amazon if they give some great offers also. They lose a lot of trust and credibility. Such things should never happen to companies like Amazon. But this is the situation now. If we don't take action, definitely our web servers are going to crash very shortly. So to avoid that, what we have to do? Our server administrators immediately they have to build a new server. You know, right, how much time it requires to procure a server, okay? And you know, right, how much time it requires to install an operating system. And you know, right, how much time it requires to harden your operating system. You know, right, how much time it will take to install a web applications, configure the web application, and starting the services, and configuring all security related things, and adding it to the load balancer will take a minimal, at least worst case also 3 hours. But like this, one server is not sufficient for this scenario. For this, at least you need to add, for this at least you need to add 10 servers. And this also you need to do it in less than 5 minutes. If you are relied on a physical hardware, it is practically impossible for you to provision and dynamically increase your web servers as per the dynamic incoming traffic requests. So if at all your requirement, if your applications requires a dynamic scaling as per the dynamic workloads, 200% provisioning your infrastructure on a physical infrastructure on a physical environment is 100% impossible. If your requirements are dynamic, if your application requirements are dynamic, then definitely the first and foremost important recommendation is to host your application on a cloud infrastructure. If you host your infrastructure on a if you host your applications on a cloud infrastructure, these kind of issues can be addressed just like a drinking water. How means? So imagining that our infrastructure is on AWS Cloud. So AWS has a feature called as auto scaling, but this auto scaling has to be configured. We have a separate session for this. We'll discuss about load balancer properties, load balancer functionality, how to create auto scaling groups, how do we define the auto scaling groups for a dynamic scaling. So to which load balancer it has to be attached. So many different configurations are there to discuss. But I'm just telling you about what is the meaning of scalability, why it is very important for you to understand. And these all things will support you to understand what is meant by cloud infrastructure. So AWS has a great feature called as auto scaling. So here I am going to set some threshold value. If there is more than 70 percentage of CPU resources are consumed, the auto scaling should immediately take the responsibility to launch a web server and to attach to a load balancer without any manual intervention. Even after adding the server and attaching it to a load balancer, so now this is the fourth server. Okay, see, it will distribute the traffic equally. That's the load balancer does. Even after adding the fourth server also, if you really think the utilization of the resources are not coming less than 70%, the auto scaling again launches one more server automatically in fraction of seconds and builds a web server attached to a load balancer in just fraction of seconds, attached to a load balancer and distribute the traffic on all five. Even after that, if still the utilization is not coming less than 70%, it will keep on dynamically scaling your web servers as long as the utilization is coming less than 70%. So here there is no concept of monitoring manually. There is no concept of monitoring manually, but you can define how many maximum number of servers the auto scaling can scale up. We can define, let's say, maximum 20, or you can specify infinite also, but generally people specify maximum. Why? Because all servers will not provision at a time, right? Why we provide maximum is if there is a bug in the application, if that bug is looping, if it is consuming so much of resources, and it automatically keep on exceeding the threshold value, then it keeps on launching new servers, you will get a lot of cloud bill. So they'll keep maximum, but there'll be people who will be monitoring, right? So why? Because from 3 it will not directly jump to 20 at a time. It will take some time. So why it is increasing, will get some understanding. If it is fine, if it is really required more than 20, we can change that to 50 or 60. But now that is all we'll see in the auto scaling. So try to understand, as per there is more number of incoming and outgoing requests, if there is more CPUs consumed, if it is exceeding the threshold value, automatically the auto scaling is responsible to build a web server, attach the web server to a load balancer, and distribute the workloads. So now on August 14th, we had 3 servers, and August 15th, auto scaling has provisioned another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 servers, means 3 plus 5 total 8 servers. But again on August 4th, 16th, since the offer is gone, right, slowly the traffic is reduced, right? Whenever the utilization is less than 70%, it slowly removes the servers from the load balancer and deletes those instances if auto scaling is not exceeding the, means if the web server utilization is not more than 70% of CPU. So now what I wanted to tell you is, on August 14th, we had 3 servers. On August 15th, we had 8 servers. And August 16th, you had again 3 servers. What AWS says is, hey, you are using only 3 servers on August 14th, you pay for only 3 servers. On August 15th, you consumed 8 servers, you pay for 8 servers. On August 16th, again you use only 3 servers. Why do you wanted to spend, see, in the last year, we have used 8 servers, let's say, this is last year data. So now my team decided, okay, last time we have used 8 servers. So now this time we'll keep 10 servers. For just one day on August 15th, when there is more traffic, for just one day, you are spending so much of money on the hardware, you are spending so much of money on the maintenance, and you are spending so much of money on annual maintenance cost, and you are doing a lot of housekeeping stuff on the, means you require to do some maintenance tasks also on the remaining 5 servers, right? So just for one day you are using, but you are doing all these things for 1 year. If it is your physical infrastructure, and that is, and whatever the hardware you are investing on the physical hardware is going to depreciate over a period of time. It will not add value to asset. It is a depreciation asset. So nowhere it is recommended to invest so much of money on the physical hardware. And just for one day, instead of purchasing 5 servers and maintaining it for 1 year, just provision your infrastructure on cloud. And whenever there is a high great offers, that time, with the help of auto scaling, you try to provision more number of servers and pay for it. So that's way the cloud will provide you one great important thing is, your application will never get crashed, and it is very easy to allocate the resources on demand, and dynamically you can able to scale up and scale down as per your workloads, and end of the day you are saving a lot of money with the help of pay as you go model. So these are the best advantages where the organizations are achieving by provisioning their infrastructure on a cloud platform. So till now I try to spend some amount of time only to make you understand about the term called what is mean by cloud infrastructure, what is mean by cloud computing, and why it is the potential way and potential solution for the organizations not to set up their infrastructure in on-prem, and why every customers are preferred to go with cloud infrastructure. And especially if at all you are having, the applications requires a rapid dynamic scaling, it is 100% it is only possible with the help of cloud infrastructure. So if you have any questions in understanding this, please do let me know. If not, let us continue from here. Yeah. So I could see a student with a name called as Mano May. Could you please disclose your full name,
Sorry.
please?
Yeah, sorry. It's Milind. Actually, my son uses this laptop for his some work, and
Okay.
he couldn't rename it. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem. Thanks for
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Let me continue from here. Guys, imagine that I worked for IT companies for about 25 years in my life. I'm done with working with a company. I wanted to do a small IT business. I wanted to do a freelancing business. Okay. So I've got one customer. The customer required a Linux server with some hardware configuration, and this Linux need one application to be installed. A very basic requirement. So my old customer knows very well about me, so he has given me a small project for me. So since it is my first project, the actual costing means the hardware cost, the applications, and my minimal service charges, the landing cost is coming around approximately 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh Indian rupees. The landing cost. But since it is my first project, I just took a very minimal profit because I don't want to lose a customer. I quoted 1.75 lakh since he's my old friend, colleague, and old customer. So he has given me an advance payment also. And he told me to deliver this product on April 8th, 10 o'clock in the morning, Indian Standard Time. So I procured a hardware, I installed Linux operating system, I installed application, everything I did. And my cost is 1.5 lakhs and I quoted 1.75 lakhs. It's a very, very neck to neck competitive pricing. So everything is fine. Today evening is April 7th. Tomorrow morning I have to hand over this entire project to my customer. And because of the high competition, I have not included any RAID configurations. I don't have any RAID controller. Because of that, I did not do any hardware level RAID enabled. So this is a hardware. In this, I have a hard disk. This is a hard disk. In the same hard disk, I installed operating system and I created one more partition in the same root disk only. In this disk, in this partition, I installed an application. Nobody can predict the hardware failures, whether it is new or old. Nobody can stop the failures. Nobody can predict or stop any failures, right? So due to some problem, the hard disk is failed. Of course, it is a part of warranty. If I raise a request to my team, means to the hardware vendor, he'll take 24 hours, he'll come and replace it. But today the time is 9 o'clock, tomorrow morning I have to deliver. If I go and tell this story saying like the hard disk is failed, again 24 hours it will take to restore the hard disk, and again I need to install the Linux operating system, configure the application, test the application. I need another 3 days of time. At corporate, the customers will not listen to your bullshit. So whether the server is ready or not, if not, this is stupid. I wasted my time. Refund the money. Here it's not about the money. First project, your reputation is gone. So it is gone only. But what if you have provisioned your infrastructure on some cloud? Let's say AWS Cloud. AWS provides 99.999% of availability to your data. This 99.999% of availability means if your 50% of the world is vanished, but still your data is safe with AWS. That is what the meaning of this. So how exactly the AWS is going to protect the data, and how exactly the AWS cloud can help you to overcome this kind of scenarios? I'll just give an example. Along with that, I'll just try to give you some basic fundamentals of AWS terminology also. So I told you, right, Google Drive, if you wanted to store some data in the Google Drive, we are using the internet and we are storing in the Google Drive. Google is somewhere maintaining the physical hard disks. Same way, AWS is also maintaining their physical infrastructure in some part of the world, in some place, okay, in some city. So where officially they call it as a region. The place where the AWS is maintaining their physical infrastructure, officially they call it as a region. But again, imagine that you have 10 lakh rupees. You wanted to start doing some business. Will you invest all 10 lakh rupees in one place? No. It is your hard-earned money. You wanted to take, you know, very less risk. You will invest 1 lakh rupee into 10 different places. So if one creates a problem also, the entire fund will not be affected. Same way, AWS also will not provision their infrastructure all in one place. What happens if the natural disaster happens? Everything is gone, right? So that way, AWS is also not provisioning their entire infrastructure in one physical place, not in one region. They are going to distribute their infrastructure in different parts of the world, in different regions. As of today, almost there are 22 plus regions are there, and it is increasing. The last region which is up and running is Hyderabad region, the one of the largest region for AWS also. So this is about a region. So let's say we have a region in Mumbai. First region in India is Mumbai, and the next region is Hyderabad, and next region is many are there, Singapore. Next is Seoul. So many regions are there. They have around 22 plus regions are there. So let's say this is Hyderabad, and the next thing is, let's say, Singapore, Sydney, Seoul, many are there. So in every region, AWS is maintaining multiple data centers. You know about what is meant by data center? A data center is a collection of servers, storage, networks, everything. A combination of all these things in one place is called as data center. So in one region, AWS maintains multiple data centers. Officially, these data centers inside a region, AWS call it as availability zones. and they name it as availability zone A. They name it as availability zone B, and they name it as availability zone C. How many availability zones will be there per AWS region? Means minimum minimum per region there will be minimum two availability zones. Minimum two data centers will be there. But maximum we cannot say, maybe three, four, five. If you look at North Virginia region and all, you have five availability zones. It's like that. It's one of the biggest regions for AWS. But minimum not less than two. And these data centers are not located in one place in Mumbai. So this may be in East Mumbai, this may be in a West Mumbai, this may be in a South Mumbai. Why? Because if anything happens to that locality, the other availability zones will not get affected. So likewise, in every region, they may have minimum two availability zones and may have more than two also. So every region has an official region ID. Every availability zone has an availability zone ID, which we are going to see further. So now you know what is meant by a region, what is meant by a availability zone. Now, what I was talking, instead of giving a solution for this customer which is on a physical hardware, I would have provisioned the same server using AWS Cloud as a EC2 instance. So I have created, I'll just write it here. I have created one EC2 instance. And this EC2 instance will also have a hard drive. So in this, you may have operating system. Okay. And now, where is this instance has been created? This instance has been created in Mumbai region, but actually this instance has been created in this availability zone. Listen very carefully. Now, whatever the data of the application we are going to store is in this hard disk. The same data is replicated to a different availability zone in the same region, and also one more copy is replicated in any one of the other availability zone on a different region. Like this, AWS by default maintains multiple copies of your data in the different availability zone in the same region, in a different availability zone in a different region. If something happens to your Mumbai region because of nuclear bombs or something happened like natural disaster like earthquake, entire Mumbai is gone, but still your data is replicated in some other regions. How these all things works we are going to see when we are talking about advanced concepts of storage. Okay, so now launching a server is just launching a Linux server. Okay, is just fraction of minute. Your data is very important. With your old data, you can relaunch the server with the same application in just fraction of seconds. So if you have provisioned your infrastructure on cloud environment, so you may avoid this kind of silly issues. So that is the reason I want to tell you AWS provides 99.99% of data availability in the event of any failures. So that is the reason why most of all the customers are preferred to go with cloud. So you have any questions with regarding to this? No? What is meant by availability zone and what is meant by region? If you still have any questions with regarding to this, please do let me know. If not, let's continue forward from here and we'll see how to create an account on AWS. So creating a AWS account is quite simple. It's a straightforward step. And I wanted to tell you a few important things. I know you all may be working professionals. You may be already created an AWS account and you may be practicing AWS. But again, you may not be really practicing end to end, you know. But if you really would like to avoid unwanted bill, unwanted nonsense from AWS, like you have got a bill of 5,000 rupees and you have got a bill of 10,000 rupees, you got a bill of 5 lakh rupees. I know it sounds really very funny for you. I have a student who has got a bill of 5 lakh Indian rupees. Really. So he is actually fighting legally, to waive off that bill. But fortunately, luckily, AWS could understand the reason he has got a bill is his account was actually misused by somebody. Okay, they could able to trace this IP details, and this guy really don't know anything about Kubernetes as a service. They have launched all the container services. Because of that, he has got a bill of 5 lakh rupees. So there are chances. Okay, please follow my classes, follow my instructions. If you are a very professional in AWS, I don't mind. But if you are a very beginner, if you don't want unwanted, headaches, so I suggest you follow my instructions, strictly follow my instructions, what I tell, what to do, what not to do, how to do. Everything 100% of the practicals in our AWS Solutions Architect Associate, we will be able to do without any paid account. Everything I will teach you under a free tier account. Okay, but a lot of discipline is really required. Discipline is very important. Okay, so let me take you to the AWS console. You can just type AWS console. So we'll see this. And also I want to tell you, sir, I've got a bill of 50 rupees. I got a bill of 100 rupees. Please don't hesitate. Do pay your 50 rupees or 100 rupees of bill. If unfortunately you have got a bill of 5,000 rupees or 10, something in above 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees, you let me know. I will tell you an option to request AWS to waive off that bill also. But many people calls me, sir, I got a bill of 40 rupees, how to waive off it? See, we are using the services, we are practicing 40, 50, 100, 200 rupees is there. You clear it off, your account will be always active. Okay. If not, they keep on sending a messages, your account is about to suspend, suspend, suspend. If you don't pay, maybe last they'll do it. But don't bring it to that extent. Okay. If it is more like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 means I will tell you the way. But that way also works for one time only. See, if you have a weapon to use it, you will have an option to use that weapon for one time. So if you use that option for 50 rupees, 200 rupees, 2000 rupees, in future if you get a very big bill, you may not be able to claim that option. Okay, that option works for only one time. So once you log into this AWS console portal, you have an option called as create AWS account. Sign up AWS account. So enter some email ID. How many email IDs I have to use, I don't know. Let's me use some dummy email ID. Mahesh 34567 at gmail.com. You have to give a unique account name. Mahesh 4578 dev. Verify email ID. Okay, I can't do it. Guys, can somebody tell me, because I have used all my email IDs, I have to recreate it again. Can somebody tell me any of your dummy emails if you have? I may not require your password.
Yes, sir, you can use mine. It's ITS. It's Pavan.
It's PAVAN. Am I typing correct?
PAWAN. YADAV @gmail.
Let's say I'm going to give Pawan AWS professional will give Pawan PAWN. No? Just remember this name for you. PAWN AWS Prof. Yeah. Can you please tell me the verification code?
Yes.
And you can use this, the same email ID for your practice purpose also. But
Sure, sir.
however, I'm not. Yeah.
The code is 520
Just a second. 520.
565.
Right?
565.
Am I typing correct? 520565.
Right.
Verify. Okay. Let's say at the moment I'm setting PAWN Pawan 9696. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Not taking it, means taking uppercase. Capital
You
P
can say
A W A
A.
N at the rate 9696. Capital P A W A N at the rate 9696. I'm just giving something. Okay. Continue step. Okay. I cannot continue from here. So it will ask you, how do you plan to use AWS? Is it for business or personal? Don't select business, select personal. Who should we contact about this account? Let's say Pawan Yadav, India. Pawan, what is your contact number? Or I'll use some other, some random number. Now, which country you belongs to? India. Just give some dummy address. This is very, very important. So you need to mandatory provide your credit or debit card number, but don't use Rupai cards. Don't use Rupai cards. So AWS may charge 1 or 2 rupees to verify your identity, to verify your account, because tomorrow the AWS has to bill it, right? So for verification, they'll deduct 1 or 2 rupees from your account, and they'll again recredit that amount in 24 hours. Provide your card details, and if you have a PAN card, enter the PAN card. Why? Because tomorrow if you get a bill, AWS is charging for the service, right? So as per the government of India, they have to pay GST. So if you means for that, if you are generally when you go to a bank, if you deposit more than 50,000 rupees of cash, they'll ask a PAN number. Likewise, if you get mandatory as per the government norm, they have to collect that your PAN number. But again, if you don't give all that's fine, and just verify and continue. That's all. So it takes some time, like 2 hours or 1 hour of time to activate your account. They will fully activate services on your account. By default, few regions are disabled. You have to manually go and enable it. That you'll get to know automatically. That's it. These are the straightforward steps in order to create an account. Okay. So now let me log into my AWS console. So let me log in. So you are trying to log in as a root user. AWS terminology is almost like a Linux terminology. So when we log into a Linux server, we can log in as administrator. The default administrator is a root user, or we can log in as a normal user also. Here, the administrator is a root user. Now, whatever, now Pawan Yadav, it's Pawan Yadav at gmail.com, right? That is a root account, like a root user he is. He's an administrator, okay? So now my root user is, so whatever the password we have given, This is how I could able to log into my AWS web console. And you could see that these are the frequently visited services. I can remove this, and this is how you could able to see it. And at the right corner you could see that you log in as a which user, Mahesh user. And for every AWS account you create, there will be a unique account ID. This is your unique account ID. And you will be able to see your billing account, billing dashboard over here. You can go here and you can see your billing. And you can go to your account, you will be able to see your account details. Like if you wanted to edit anything, you wanted to give alternate contacts, you can see here your account is enabled with which regions. See, you can see here guys, I told you, right, by default there are few regions. AWS maintains the physical infrastructure in different geographical locations called as regions. So by default these all regions are active for our account automatically as a part of creation. But you see, Cape Town, Hong Kong, Hyderabad, Jakarta, Melbourne, Spain, UAE, Bahrain, these accounts are not by default enabled. We have to manually go and enable. But that's fine, they'll not charge for it, but I'm just telling you an example. Okay, that's fine. Let me go to home. So, update your access permission for AWS billing cost manager account following IAM access for AWS. That's okay. Okay. Now, try to understand. One second, I want a different console. So like like dashboard. Let me log in again. Guys, everybody are following. Can you please acknowledge?
Yes, Mahesh.
Yes, Mahesh.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Sir.
Okay, if you see at the right hand side next to your account, you can see your home region. See, as Ravinder told, we will try to provision the servers. AWS is going to maintain data centers all across the world. Let's say you are in Bangalore, why will you take a server which is in like North Virginia or Sydney? That is very far for us, right? So it is recommended to provision the server which is close to our location, which is Mumbai or Hyderabad. But the default home region for any people who creates an account in India, it will be Mumbai. So if you wanted to see what are the other regions the AWS is having, just click on it. See, almost like 22 plus regions are there. So it says that there is one region that are not enabled for this account. Maybe I think this is a new region, Melbourne. So if you want, you can go click on this, you can enable it, that's fine. So the default in Mumbai. So every region has a official region name, which is AP South 1. This is the official name for Mumbai. There's something called as Hyderabad. It's not Hyderabad in Pakistan, it is our Indian Hyderabad. So AP South, one of the biggest available like region. Okay. And AWS provides hundreds of services. If you wanted to see what are the services offered by AWS, at the left hand of your dashboard, you can able to click on it. There are many sections. There are many sections. If you go to compute, under compute you could see so many other EC2, EC2 Image Builder, Elastic Beanstalk, Lambda, Lightsail, AWS Outpost, AWS SIM Space Waiver. The same way, if you go to storage, you have again different types of storage services. Or if you wanted to go for network and content delivery, you see so many other services are there. So if you go to containers, Elastic Container Registry, Elastic Container Service, Elastic Kubernetes Service, Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. Okay, and if you would like to go for blockchain, you have it. You want to go for database, Dynamo DB, Elastic Cache, Amazon Key Spaces, Neptune, RDS, Amazon Document DB. So likewise, Redis database. AWS provides hundreds of services. So that relevant service, you can find it in the relevant section. So if you don't know where it falls, let's say I wanted to work with Redshift, which is a data warehousing service. You can just type over here. So I can directly click over here. Or let's say I would like to know more about, you know, something like robotics. You can see all the robotics related IoT, RoboRunner, AWS RoboMaker. You know, you can able to see. Or let's say I would like to know more about, pipelines, code pipelines. I think this is one of the inbuilt, release, software release and continuous delivery like Jenkins on AWS. Okay, so there are hundreds of services. Honestly speaking, no single person can learn all the services. So you are a database administrator. Your company is migrating the databases to cloud. Then you will be more focused on databases. Again, here also you may not be focusing on everything. You may be focusing on a specific service where your company has migrated to the specific database. Or let's say you are a data warehousing guy. So then you may be using Redshift or something. Means a relevant team will be using a relevant service. It's not like you are learning AWS here. You need to know end-to-end RDS. You need to know end-to-end dynamics. It's not like that. So there'll be a dedicated database developer or administrator who is responsible to work with a particular service. Okay. So here we are going to more focus on how do we manage the infrastructure and how do we provision this infrastructure and how do we troubleshoot it if something goes wrong. So this is what we are going to do. So the first service which we are going to start in our training is EC2 service. Okay. So before we are going to start the EC2 service, let us take a quick break for 15 minutes. Now the time is 9:35. We will meet at 9:50. Okay, so we'll see at 9:50 and we'll complete our break and we'll complete at least not the complete EC2. I cannot complete today. At least we'll see. We'll understand about instances, instance types, and creating instances, different types of instances. We'll try to go through today. So, any questions at the moment? Let me know. If not, we'll see you at 9:50, guys. Hello guys, I'm back. Are you there, everyone?
Yes, Mahesh.
Ramu, I could see a person. Can you please disclose your name, please? Or please do connect with your full name. Please connect with your full name. Ramu, could you please disclose your identity? Okay. So today we'll start with our first service, which is EC2 service. It's a very big service. EC2 stands Elastic Compute Cloud. That means, see, generally, why we are calling it as compute means it is a server. It can also be called as computer, or it can also be called as node. It can also be called as compute. It can also be called as instance. Okay, compute is nothing but a server. And it's EC2 is one of the service on the AWS Cloud. It's one of the service on AWS Cloud. Elastic means elastic in nature. Elastic means elasticity. So what is this elastic in nature? We have a balloon and it has a property called as elastic in nature. So when you blow it, it increases the size. When you remove the air, it minimizes the size. Same way, you try to create an instance. You try to launch a server on AWS Cloud with some amount of CPU, with some amount of RAM. Over a period of time, if you require more resources, you can able to increase as per your requirement. So that's called as elastic in nature. That's why they call it as elastic compute cloud. That is the full form of EC2 service. So EC2 instance is nothing but a server or a virtual machine we create on a AWS cloud. I told you, right? Instance is nothing but a compute, nothing but a server or a node. So EC2 instance is nothing but the server what we launch on a AWS cloud is called as EC2 instance. Okay. So listen, I would like to launch one EC2 instance. Imagine that this is one of the EC2 instance I would like to launch on AWS Cloud. So while launching the EC2 instance, I mandatory need to provide operating system type, right? So while we are trying to create an EC2 instance, I mandatory need to define what type of operating system I need to install inside this virtual machine which is created on AWS Cloud. Technically, on AWS Cloud, the operating system is called as AMI. That means Amazon Mission. Okay, so we need to specify the type of the operating system. So we need to define the type of the operating system, whether it is a Windows or whether it is Ubuntu or whether it is a Mac or whether it is Amazon Linux or it is Red Hat Enterprise Linux or CentOS or Fedora. We need to define the AMI. Without choosing this, it is not possible. And second thing is, we need to define CPU, and also we need to define a RAM. Try to understand, before AWS used to give an option for the customers to choose the required CPU. Let's say I wanted to choose two virtual CPU and I wanted to choose 4 GB of RAM. So AWS used to provide an option for the end users to choose CPU and RAM for their instances separately. Because of this, AWS faced a lot of challenge. Like what they're doing is they're taking a bike engine and they're connecting it to a bus chassis, and they're taking a car engine and they're connecting to a bike chassis. So here, for a bus chassis, bike engine is not sufficient. For a bike chassis, car engine is very heavy. That means what the problem with the AWS is going to, I was actually facing is, when the AWS was giving an option to choose the CPU and RAM separately, the actual challenge was, let's say I launch one instance with two virtual CPU and I selected, let's say, 64 GB RAM, or let's say I selected 32 virtual CPU with 2 GB RAM. So this kind of nonsense combinations the end users were used to do, and because of that they were letting a lot of hardware related issues for their environment, and for that AWS was facing really a challenge to make them understand. So finally what they did is they completely removed this concept, and what AWS have done is AWS itself is going to provide some default configurations like this. So what AWS is saying is doing is they're saying one virtual CPU plus 1 GB of RAM, two virtual CPU, 4 GB RAM, four virtual CPU, 8 GB RAM, four virtual CPU, 16 GB RAM. Likewise, they're doing different combinations now. Like now 8 virtual CPU, 32 GB RAM. They are only deciding for this virtual CPU how much RAM, for this virtual CPU how much RAM. They are giving different combinations, hundreds of combinations. Okay, and they are calling this as an instance type. Let's say they have named it as instance type A, instance type B, instance type C, D. There are different technical names, T2.micro, T2.nano, T2.large, but I'm just giving naming as A, B, C, D, E. Means now the AWS, to overcome that previous challenge, they only decided CPU and a RAM combination. They name it as instance type. You can choose instance type A or B or C or D E within the list only. You will not have an option to choose your own CPU and own RAM combination. But you will have multi combinations which will suits your requirement. Hundreds of types will be there. So now this is called as instance type. So now what next we have to do, once you have decided the type of the instance, you have to decide instance type. So T2.micro, T2.large or T2.small means type A or type B or type C. If you select type B, automatically your virtual machine what you are going to get at AWS, you have 2 virtual CPUs and 4 GB of RAM. It is simple as like bottle and cap concept. When you buy, before you can buy a bottle anywhere and you can buy a cap anywhere. So there are chances of incompatible issues. They'll be loose or it will be tight, leakage can happen. But now you are buying the bottle also from AWS and you are buying the cap also from AWS. So your AWS have tested everything, this bottle and cap, which will suits the best combination, and they are selling at different sizes of the bottles, so automatically it will come with the cap also. You cannot buy bottle and cap separately, it's as same as it. Now once after it is done, it requires definitely a hard disk. It definitely requires a hard disk. Why? Because when we try to power on, it should start booting with our required AMI, with your required operating system. Any operating system we have to install in this hard disk only. So if you don't have a hard disk, we cannot boot it. So we need to select the size of the hard disk. We need to select size of the hard disk. Generally, when we talk about a hard disk, there are two types of hard disk available in the market. One is object storage. The type of the hard disk is either object level storage or a block storage. Listen very carefully. If you have any hard disk, if you want to install an operating system, if you would like to boot your hard disk with an operating system, then your operating system should be installed on what type of hard disk? On only block storage type. This object storage type cannot be used for booting. It can be used for only storing objects. Very important. See, you have, where is this? Yeah. So you have Google Drive. Is it possible for you to boot with your Google Drive? It is 100%. It is impossible. So the best example of object storage is Google Drive. You can use your Google Drive for storing your data, your objects like files, images, movies, songs. But this block storage is actually used for installing the operating system and boot your operating system. Okay. Now imagine that you have a hard disk. The hard disk capacity is 500 GB. And on this you install a Windows operating system. So your Windows operating system has consumed, let's say, 100 GB. It will not take that much, but takes say that 100 GB it has used for installing the operating system, and remaining we have 400 GB. Does it mean that the block storage is used for installing the operating system, but still the remaining space I can use for storing the objects also, right? I can store files, right? What I want to tell you is this block storage is used to boot your operating system. Also, it can be used for storing the objects. This block storage will act as a block, means to install the operating system, and also it will also act as a object storage also. So now whatever the hard disk we are going to add to our EC2 instance to boot with the operating system, the type of the hard disk is block storage, not object storage. And what type of block storage? Elastic block storage, EBS volume. What type of storage it is? EBS volume. Elastic block storage volume. Elastic means you can resize it. You can increase it dynamically on the fly without losing the data. That's called as elasticity. You know that very well. So whenever we try to create EC2 instance, it automatically creates a hard disk, and the type of the hard disk it creates is EBS volume. And what type of volume is it? Block storage. Why block storage? Only block storage has the capabilities in order to install the operating system, and these are the only hard disks which have a capabilities to boot it. Okay, and then point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3. You assemble all these things, hence it is going to form a EC2 instance. Okay, now the instance has been created. What instance? Imagine that a Linux instance. So imagine that this is your EC2 instance. Okay, where is it created? On AWS Cloud. Whenever you launch a EC2 instance, it has two IP addresses. We'll not talk about this more. We'll talk about this IP addressings and all when we are talking about VPC. But I'm just telling you, okay. One is public IP address. This private IP. If now this is created on some AWS region in Mumbai or Hyderabad. Now I'm in Bangalore. So this is my Windows computer. This is my Windows computer. Now from my Windows computer, I would like to establish connection to my EC2 instance. Now my computer is on a different network, my home network, and this is on a AWS network. So definitely within AWS, from one instance to other instance, I can able to connect through this private IP. But if I wanted to establish connection from my home network to my EC2 instance, I need to use this public IP address only. Okay. So how will I able to establish connection to this EC2 instance from a Windows machine? Definitely with the help of SSH connection only. So I'll start establishing the connection through SSH. Crucial. So this is a protocol, remote protocol. We always establish connection to the Linux servers because by default SSH is secured. By default SSH is going to encrypt the data. Okay. Now try to understand, when I try to establish the connection from my Windows machine to the EC2 instance, automatically the request is forward to this EC2 instance on which port number? 22, because SSH uses port number 22. and this request on EC2 instance port number 22 is requested by this computer. This computer will also have an IP address. Immediately AWS is going to verify for this IP address on port number 22 whether they have an access to be allowed or not. If imagine that not there, the connection will not be established. I cannot establish connection to this EC2 instance. Generally, this is your house. If somebody would like to enter inside your house, they need to have an access to the door. If the door is open, no, then only people will allow and people can go out. If the door is blocked, nobody can enter your house. Whoever is entering, they had to have a biometric access. Not everybody can go inside. The same way, here also we have something like that. So we have to configure. I'll show you here. Go to services, go to EC2. There is something called as security groups. We'll see more detailed. So we need to create a security group here. We need to write the policy that any traffic any traffic 0.0.0.0. This means any address from the outside world is requesting on port number 22 should be allowed. And since we have opened the port, automatically the outgoing port also will be opened. So when the user try to connect through SSH, the port is open for this IP address. Since we have opened for everybody, and it loads the relevant configuration files and it'll see the authentication. The authentication is done. The user is going to get the response from the outgoing port. That's how the user can establish connection to this. So for that, we need to create a security group. In security group, we have to open port number 22 for the specific IP address or for a specific CIDR or for everybody. Okay, then only we will be able to establish connection to the EC2 instance using SSH. Point number one. Point number two is for security reasons. By default on AWS, password based authentications are restricted. By default, password based authentications are restricted. Means when you try to connect to this EC2 instance as a specific user, even though you know the correct password, AWS will not allow you to enter with the help of password. Why? Because if by chance if your network is compromised, your password is compromised, and there is a chance your server data can be misused. So for security reasons, this password based authentications are disabled. We can enable it, we can override it, but by default is this. Then how do you establish connection to the EC2 instance without password? Means that's called as key based authentications. Public key based authentication. You would have heard in Linux we have something called as public key authentication, password less authentication. The password less authentication can be done with the help of key based authentication. Listen very carefully. Whenever we try to launch a EC2 instance, which is a Linux instance, it automatically allows us to download the public key in two formats. One is .pem key, or you can download it in .ppk key. PEM stands privacy enhanced mail. PPK stands putty private key. So you can download the public key either in a .pem format or you can download it in .ppk format. So when we have to download, .ppk format and when we have to download .pem format means try to understand. You can establish the connection to a Linux server which is created on AWS from Windows. For that you require some terminal emulators need to be installed. So that can be putty software. There are so many terminal emulators. Something called as mobile XTEM. So if at all you want to establish connection to your Linux server, okay, using a passwordless authentication, which is key-based authentication from your Windows machine, putty uses .ppk keys. The public key what you are going to use should be in a .ppk. It's ppk, guys. Let me write it properly. It's a .ppk key. To establish a connection from Windows to Linux using passwordless authentication, using putty, we have to use .ppk, putty private key. If we are connecting from Windows to Linux using a mobile XTEM, it uses .pem key. While creating the instance, you can download either a .pem or .ppk keys. So now I have explained you the overall concept. I have not explained theory like practically. Now what I'll try to do is I'll take you to the AWS console. I'll take you to the dashboard of the EC2. I'll navigate all the options and then whatever we have explained so far, we'll try to discuss everything hands-on now so that you will be able to get a very, very better understanding at the end. Ramu, could you please disclose your identity? Please. I've repeated multiple times. I've already removed you from the class. Again, you reconnected. I request you to please disclose your identity. If not, I'll remove you and log the meeting. If you are really, a student in this batch, disclose so that the session will not be disturbed. You have to connect with your full name or else you have to disclose your identity, Ramu. Guys, I'm removing him and locking the meeting. Please don't disconnect. If you disconnect again, you cannot log into the meeting. Please do not share the meeting IDs to unauthorized students so that we can avoid these challenges actually. I'll log the meeting. Nobody can join now. Yeah. So any of our students only have to share the meeting ID to unauthorized people. Please don't do that. One second, let me delete everything. Let me keep it so clean for you so that you'll understand everything. The default security group we cannot delete. Okay. So when you log into the AWS console, you should go to services, you should go to compute, and you have a EC2 virtual service servers in the AWS cloud. Click on it and be very sure that you are working under which region, Mumbai region. EC2 is not a global service. EC2 is a region specific service. So you went to Hyderabad, okay, you forgot something and you are searching in Bangalore, you will not find it. You have to go to your Bangalore, like Hyderabad office, and you have to see your place where you have forgotten the things. Here also the same thing. So when you are in the Mumbai region and any resources you create, it is visible in Mumbai region. You are going to Hyderabad region, you are going to Seoul region, you are going to Melbourne region, and look for the resources which you created in Mumbai region, it will not be visible. So when you are talking about a region specific service, you should remember in which region you have provisioned the resources, and to access those resources you have to go to the Mumbai region only. Now, just for knowledge process prospect, I'm telling you guys. We'll have a separate time for all these things. There are some global services. These global services, when you are accessing, you will see global here. These kind of global services, wherever you are, whether you are in Mumbai region or Hyderabad region or UAE somewhere, wherever it is, Bahrain region, you can able to access this region like resources because those are called global resources. So understand that difference. Okay. So now again, let me go to EC2. So this is the EC2 dashboard. You can see, and you can see that you are in the Mumbai region, and you have a clear information. How you will here you can able to see what are the regions available and which region we have switched. But in every region, how many availability zones are there you wanted to see, right? I told you, right? In the previous classes, I told you there'll be minimum two data centers in every region, two availability zones in every region. Okay. But if you see here, how will I know how many availability zones are there? You can see down, this is the availability zone name. This is a zone ID 1A, 1B, 1C. AP South 1 is Mumbai. A is available to zone A, B, and C. And these are official zone IDs. And what is the region state? Service is operating normally. There is no any problem over here. Now, I would like to launch one EC2 instance. You can either launch the instance here only, or you can go to instances. You can launch instance from here also. Wherever you are comfortable, you can do that. Launch an instance. So this is the new, EC2 instance dashboard and creation options. Before we used to have old options, but this is the latest console for EC2. They keep progressing, they keep on updating. So whatever you see now, it may not be really there after 3 months or 6 months. But overall options remain same, but here and there the interface will be keep on changing some new features. Now I'm going to create one EC2 instance. The instance name I have to provide mandatory. What is the name you wanted to provide? Let's say I'm going to give line x1. So while creating, we need to specify what is the operating system required for your instance. Means you need to specify the AMI down. Application and voice images, Amazon mission image. You can browse here and you can see here. Guys, as I told you, a strict discipline is very important in order to avoid the bill. So you can use any images which has a tag called free tier eligible. If you try to create a Mac operating system, 100% it is billable. It is not for free. Only you have to use any AMIs which has definitely, it is not free again, but again it is free. This Ubuntu is free. Microsoft is free, but this is not free. So any image you are going to choose, you mandatory need to choose which has a label called as free tier eligible. And of course it is 64-bit only, x86 only, not ARM. So every image has a image ID. This is the, sorry, this is for ARM, this is for x86. This is the image ID. You can see this one. And the description of this, it's Amazon Linux. Root device is elastic block storage, virtualization details, ENE, some other details. At the moment, we'll not go those all these things. Let me select this Amazon Linux I'm going to create. Okay, so it is free tier eligible. Next, what I need to choose, I need the AWS have multiple instance types. I need to choose according to my requirement the required instance type. So you cannot go and choose. You will be attracted the moment once you get inside to that. You'll have 4 virtual CPU with 8 GB. You'll have like 16 virtual CPU with 64 GB, with 32 virtual CPU with 256 GB of RAM. So don't get tempted to that and don't go and do that. You try to select the instances mandatory having free tier eligibility tag. If you select the instances which has a free tier eligibility tag, you will not get a bill. So now we have to select instance type. So compare the instance types if you want, you can see here. But here you will not be able to see whether which is free tier or not. If you wanted to see free tier, you just click on it. You can see. So only one free tier is T2.micro. So one virtual CPU, 1 GB, that is more than sufficient for practice purpose. Okay. And if you can see here, if there are anything free tier, the thing is free. See, 96 virtual CPU with 192 GB of RAM. This is 64 virtual CPU with 120 GB of RAM. 32 virtual CPU, 64 GB of RAM. Sometimes they'll give offers. 36 virtual CPU with 72 GB of RAM. 96 virtual CPU with 192 GB of very expensive. These all are. So by chance also don't select those things. Okay. You try to select only the instances which has a free tier eligibility. Okay. Now this is a Linux server, right? In order to establish SSH connection to the Linux server, I need to go for key based authentication. So either I required a public key in .pem format or public key in .ppk format. So you decide if you are using a putty software, then download the key in .ppk format. If you are using a mobile XTEM, then use .pem. It is not difficult, both are same only. Mobile XTEM also, you know how to download and install putty, straight downloading options. Same way, MOBA XTEM download. If you select this, it takes you to this default one. And don't set professional edition, download this and just next, 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 finish. That's all. So now I'm going to download a key pair. Means I'm going to create a key pair. So the key pair name you wanted to give, let's say Linux weekend is the name I'm going to provide. So it's a public key. You want in .pem format, see, for use with OpenSSH. For use with, you can use OpenSSH also for this. Let's say I'll use .ppk for the first time. I'm just telling you, create a key pair. But please ensure that this key pair, you should not lose it. If you lose it, then it will be a lot of problem. Okay. Going further, you will understand once your key is lost, is it possible to revoke this public keys? Is possible or not, you will understand. But it is very, very critical. Don't do that. Okay, you should not lose them. So create a key pair. So you can see that a .ppk file has been downloaded. Now I need to create security group, and I need to open the incoming and outgoing traffic for port number 22 for everyone, right? So you can see create a security group, or you can go to edit options. Now when you select create security group, it will ask you to give the name. Let's say I'll specify Linux-security group. If you want, you can give some description for this. So already for every Linux instance, whenever you create, SSH service is automatically allowed for everyone. See 0.0.0.0. If you wanted to allow only for my computer, then select my IP. It automatically looks for my IP address, and it identifies my IP address. See, go and search my IP address. If you type, this is my IP address. This is my public IP ending with 135.35. Now, even though everybody knows the public IP of my instance Linux, nobody can connect. Only this request coming from this SSH request on this IP address only are allowed. But however, I'll just give it for anywhere. Okay. And I told you, right? For every server, it has an operating system. To boot your instance with an operating system, it requires elastic block storage. Okay. The type of the hard disk what we are reading is EBS. You can see. So automatically it is going to create every instance with 8 GB of EBS volume. Listen carefully, listen very, very carefully. Whenever you try to create any Linux instance type, whether it is Ubuntu or Fedora or Red Hat or Amazon Linux, by default it creates with 8 GB of EBS volume. If you want, you can increase it. But listen very carefully. The maximum amount of EBS volume which is falling under a free tier limit is 30 GB. And this is not for one EC2 instance. For your entire account, you try to create as many number of EC2 instances, that's fine. But all instances together should not exceed more than 30 GB of EBS volume. But if you try to create one instance only with 30 GB, now you will not get a bill. But you try to create one more EC2 instance with 8 GB also. The free tier limit is 30 GB, which you have already consumed. And you are trying to create one more instance with 8 GB or 10 GB or 20 GB. So whichever exceeding after 30 GB, you will get a bill for 1 month. So never ever try to create any Linux instances with more than default 8 GB. So if this is the case, you can able to create up to a maximum of simultaneously 3 Linux instances. 3 8 are 24. Okay, so do not create the fourth one where it leads to exceeding of 2 GB, you will get a bill. So keep those things in mind and you will not get any bill. Now, I told you, right? I given one example, right? What was the example? I want 50 servers of this hardware configuration. I would have selected this instance type. Instead of creating one server, I want to create 50 servers. How much time it is taking for me to create this one server? I can specify 50 servers here. At a time, it is going to launch 50 servers here. But at the moment, let us launch only one only. And then launch instance. Now let's go to the instances. Now the instance is in a pending state. The instance should come to a running state. Let's wait for it. Take some time to create and boot.
meanwhile, I'll ask a question, Mahesh.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, what is the minimum time it will bill you? Like, say, if at all I happen to misconfigure something and I realize within 15 minutes, so it will charge me for 15 minutes or minimum is
Correct.
1 hour.
Pay as you go. Pay as you go. Yes. See,
Okay.
there are again million. There are, see, when you buy a mobile connection, you have a prepaid and postpaid also, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So likewise, also there are few services you have to use it and pay, and there are few services you have to upfront pay first and then use it. This
Okay.
EC2 comes under a pay as you go, like a postpaid.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Mahesh, I have one more question. What is the difference between AMI and the template?
Template is similar to the AMI, okay, but there are some confidential changes that we'll see. Well, when I was talking about S3, I'll show you. I'll show you how to create a template, how to create an image, how to build
Okay.
a volume. These all things we'll see.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll see. But now I don't want to get into that. Okay, it's done. Now our EC2 instance is ready. Now, how do you connect? We have downloaded .ppk. For that, we require a putty software, right? But then, what are the? If you just have .ppk is not sufficient to establish the connection. What are the other details you require? You required your Linux server public IP, and this .ppk is a password in encrypted format. But we need to know the username also, right? Without knowing the username and without knowing this public IP address, to whom we are connecting. So we need to go there and we have to get the details. So I need to know this server's public IP and user details. Select the server which you want to know the details, and you have an option called as connect option, and you have an option called as SSH client. If you scroll down, this is the DNS details. This is the DNS details. You can use this DNS details, and the default username. This is not a Red Hat Linux. This is not Ubuntu. It's Amazon Linux. In Amazon Linux, the default user they have designed is to have is EC2 user. So you can connect on this DNS address using this username, or you select this instance, you scroll down, you can see this public IP and you can see this private IP. You cannot use this private IP, you can use this public IP. Either you can use this public IP or you can use this DNS details. So better use DNS only. So copy the username and open the putty to which host you wanted to connect. We are connecting to this address. This is the address of the EC2 instance. Address. And on this address, to which user you are connecting, easy to define. If you don't want, you can if you don't need to specify also. Guys, am I audible? Guys, am I clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yes,
Mahesh.
So you can specify the username later also. That's fine. Or else you can specify EC2-user here only. Okay. But we are not having password based authentication. We have to use key based authentication, right? We have to define the key. We have to upload the key .ppk key which you have downloaded. You can see, right? So I download the .ppk. We are using putty, right? For putty, we this .ppk key. Where is my .ppk key in my downloads? So go to SSH. There is something called as auth. Guys, drop down this SSH. Don't drop down the auth. Don't drop down. Click on auth. Okay. You have a private key for authentication. Browse. It directly redirects to your downloads. Go to downloads. This is the key which we just downloaded, guys. This is the PPK key. When did we download it? Just now, 8:04 at 10:30. Now the time is 10:40. Select this, open it. Now if you select open, it will start establishing to the DNS address on that username, and AWS will look for this key. If the key is matching, authentication will happen, passwordless authentication. Accept. That's it. Now we are working with Amazon Linux mission, which is provision on AWS Cloud. So who am I? EC2 user. Connected from which mission? This is my mission's IP address. And I would like to switch to root user. Sudo su hyphen. Now I switch to which user? Root user. So this is how it is possible for us to do. I'm holding the session here. Tomorrow's class, I'll teach you how to create a Windows instance. For Windows, there is a small process is a slight different. So tomorrow, if you wanted to provision Windows for your customers, you should know the procedure and how to connect it. So I'll tomorrow I'll show you how to provision the Windows, and there are so many options we have to discuss in EC2, and then we'll slowly, once EC2 is completed, we'll try to discuss about how to set up the web servers. Once web servers configuration is done, then we'll discuss about load balancers, and then once load balancers are done, then we'll discuss about auto scaling groups. There we'll combine the web servers, load balancers, and auto scaling. We'll see how dynamically we can scale up and scale down, and there we'll discuss what is horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, how do we dynamically add and remove the resources, resize it, everything. And once it is done, then there are still so many options in EC2, which probably takes another two classes, tomorrow's class and next class. Okay, and once that is done, then we'll get inside to the elastic block storage. Then there we'll discuss about volumes, snapshots, templates, images. Once that is done, then we'll get into the S3 storage. In S3 storage, we will discuss more deeper and deeper. Once S3 is completed, then we'll get into the VPC. Once VPC is completed, then we'll get into the Route 53. Once Route 53 is completed, then we'll get into IAM, Identity and Access Management. Once Identity and Access Management is completed, then we'll get inside to the AWS CLI. There almost 70% of our course is done. And remaining things like SNS, SES, and CloudTrail, CloudWatch, CloudFront, these all things will not take much time. But see, again, I'm telling you, ECT, EC2, we can end up here only. EC2 service we can extend for next two classes also. It's not about how many number of services we are covering. It's about the very hot concepts of AWS. How in-depth we are learning is very important. As I told you, hundreds of services are there in AWS. It's not mandatory that everybody should know everything. But anything in the area you are working, you need to know in and out. That's how you have to prioritize learning AWS. So you have any questions regarding to the today's class, let me know. If not, we'll see you tomorrow same time at 8 o'clock, guys.